Yeah, I'm sticking around, man. I gotta hear it all. I gotta know it all. We'll probably get one snippet that's not in here. Although I can't imagine because it looks like a pretty thorough book.
And many people working in horror comics say, Greg Irons. I looked at his work and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I look at the partner.
Yeah, I thought about that too when you showed me your machine.
Yeah, the Catalyst.
It's like the main concert hall in Santa Cruz. It's been there since the early 60s.
And I remember it, that poster. Totally.
Just thinking about the grind that he was working in, the overnight shift, the graveyard shift on some like shitty street in Seattle where he's just cranking out walk-ins all night.
Roses one after another,
Yep.
drunken Indians.
And how he's saying like, you know, I think I'm getting it. I think I'm getting to the point where I can actually like be a pretty consistently good, you know.
And he was already great.
That's what I mean. That was his level of, you know, of perfectionism, though, I guess.
And humility.
And humility. Yeah.
Want me to sign yours?
Yeah.
Sure.
I got it 2 weeks ago, and I was staying with some of my friends in Portland for just a couple days, and it didn't talk to me at all. I just read. I felt like a jerk, but I was like, this is so
Really immersed yourself in it.
There's so much in there, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and for the past, ever since then, I finished in 2 days, and ever since then, I've just been re-going over.
Yeah.
Well, don't you think that knowing the details of his personal life really helps you appreciate his work?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, especially the Gregor stuff.
Yeah,
I was
oh
like, holy
man,
shit,
that was really...
Something that's like hard hitting, like you're just like...
I think we're going to see a lot of tattooed people tonight.
I'm guessing so. Cheese. I've got to put my art can't say cheese.
I got it for my 50th birthday, but I started it. It's like 5 stars, one for each decade, more horsepower under the hood for the next 50 years. It took about 3 months, maybe 4 months or so.
That's just amazing. Yeah, it's just that's not only is that I think probably one of Greg Irons' best covers ever, but I think it's one of the best covers of an underground comic ever. That is just so awesome.
So where'd you get the Flash from, Beth?
I bought it from Tattoo Archives.
So is it still floating around in shops and stuff?
Yeah.
There's a...
And there's that tattoo flash up there that was part of an exhibit.
Oh, it's a psychedelic solution and I missed it?
I really love this picture. They're opening for the Byrds at a concert in New Jersey, 1965. And there's Greg Irons on the left over here playing bass guitar. When I saw that picture, I thought, oh, that's a great picture. And then I found these drawings he'd done in his sketchbook of the same band members.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Rosencrantz is going to speak now.
We're here tonight to honor the artistry and the memory of Greg Irons. At this point, I would like to raise a toast, except Charlie doesn't allow us any liquids in here, so we'll have to do it metaphorically.
Hail!
Hail! Skål!
Skål!
Well, this book began when I met Greg Irons in 1972, when I was interviewing all of the underground cartoonists for my first book on underground comics. And I looked up he and Tom Veitch and Stinson Beach and did an interview, but I lost track of him in the late 70s. And I wasn't even aware of his work with the children's books or the tattoos until after he had died. Well, in 1992, Dennis and Charlie and I decided to take an adventure in desktop publishing with Counter Media magazine. So Charlie created a complete checklist of Greg Irons' work, which was a great help to me years later when I was trying to assess his body of work. And I met his brother Mark Irons, who was 7 years younger, and Mark was also very interested in finding someone who would publish a book about his brother so that his name would go on. And it actually took me about 2 years to convince Fantagraphic Books that this is a good subject for a book and they could sell enough copies to make it worth their while. Well, he was away from comics for 3 or 4 years, but he was brought back into the fold by Ron Turner for Slow Death #7. About that same time, he developed his autobiographical character, Gregor the Purple-Ass Baboon. Now, up to that time, he hadn't developed a character that was his, that people could identify with. And he considered that a mistake. But he finally developed Gregor the Purple-Ass Baboon as an autobiographical character, with himself as the subject of ridicule, mockery, and everything else. He was extremely rough on himself. When you read these Gregor stories, they are based on real things that happened to him, and the people he knew appear in them. His girlfriend posed for a lot of these nude pictures. "It's the bad vibes," complains Gregor. "The atmosphere is buzzing. The gene pool is in a slump. The papers are full of bad news. The whole shithouse is going up in chunks. Oh well, maybe the revolution will finally come." Now, he died of a traffic accident in Thailand. I've seen the death report from the American Embassy, and they say he died from being struck by a bus on the 13th of November, 1984. Now, I've heard lots of rumors about the cause of death. For instance, there's the rumor that being hit by a bus in Thailand is code word for assassination. I've also heard stories involving pimps, drug deals gone bad, a jealous Arab at the Hotel Fortuna where he was staying, retribution by the Hells Angels for tattooing someone with their club tattoo, a fatal disease that led to suicide. But I believe he was hit by a bus by accident, and that's how he died. Although I can't prove it conclusively, that's what I believe happened. Now, the big question for me was, what was his lifelong fascination with death and skulls all about? And I think I came close to answering it, especially with this quote from him. "The real question is, why is death so compelling? Skulls. Everybody has one. I always found death, devil, sin more interesting than holy stuff. My fascination with the death image was a way of coping, coming to terms with death and coming to terms with life, an attempt to signify through symbols my place in the scheme of things. I remember who and what I am. We can only evaluate our condition in terms of the symbols that we have created. As far as death images and tattooing, death stuff is hot imagery for artists thinking about the human condition." So I'd be glad to sign any other books that I haven't already signed.